Okay, first I want to issue an apology of sorts about last week's video. I'll just throw it out there. We've had some serious problems with uploading stuff to YouTube. And because of that factor, we had to shoot it on the old iPod Touch 4th generation. That is where this channel pretty much started. So if the video quality is not the greatest, I apologize for that. And if you're watching this video, it is September 29th. And I'll tell you right now, I'm most likely at a Disney theme park of some sort. And I will be for the next 2 days. And actually, I might be at Epcot because Food and Wine Festival started 2 days ago. So, there you go. So, cryptic comment for this week. Only one word came to mind. And that's adrenaline. And if you want to have two adrenaline-filled movies against each other, this is the battle you want to see. So, AJ, tell us what happens when Point Break faces off against the Fast and the Furious.
Well, it's obviously no secret now as to why I would compare these two, but I'll go ahead and explain.
Okay.
Point Break is the story of a cop who goes undercover with a bunch of daredevil criminals.
Okay.
And basically gets involved with them, and actually gets involved in their brotherhood in a way. And becomes one of them, and has to decide whose side he's on. And basically, eventually, he forms enough of a bond with the criminal that he kind of forgets about being a cop and lets him be on his way.
Okay.
The Fast and the Furious is about a cop that goes undercover with these daredevil criminals that do this deadly street racing. And he falls in with them, and there's a brotherhood. And he becomes involved with their leader enough that there's a strong enough bond that he eventually lets him be on his way and forgets about the cop thing.
And no, folks, he didn't just repeat that just to be funny. This is what the movies are about. They're pretty much mirror images of each other.
Yeah, like I was saying, that's pretty much no secret now, but
no.
Back in the day, people didn't really think about it. So I guess I will get started.
Okay.
There's 5 categories for this one.
You actually did get that category situation worked out?
Yeah, it's pretty cheap, but I'll get to it. It'll be the second one. The first one is
nice.
The lead characters. So we have Johnny Utah and Bodie versus Brian O'Connor and Dominic Toretto. This basically involves them as characters and their dynamic together.
Okay.
The interesting thing... Well, we'll start with Brian and Utah. The thing is I don't know what's up with Brian. I don't know what the movie is trying to do, but when Point Break starts, Utah is taking his test and basically being accepted into the FBI.
Correct.
And we see him, he gets a partner that's Gary Busey, and they have the superior that yells at them all the time, which is John C. McGinley.
Nice.
We see him go through all the cliche cop stuff. The thing about Brian is, even though, like, if you know the synopsis, you know Brian's a cop, it's like over half an hour in before that's revealed, and they almost do it like it's a twist, because they go through the, hello, Bulletproof, they go through the trouble of arresting him and bringing him in, and then you realize, oh, of course, he's with them. I don't really know I don't know if we're supposed to not know going in, or what, but that's basically it. Some people even have a conspiracy theory that the reason they tried to hide Brian being a cop was because people would start to realize how much like Point Break it was.
Nice.
But no, and of course it's, I don't mind either one of them. I think they both have enough going on to where I don't mind them, like most people do. But yeah, people basically think it's a battle of the blandness, because we're really talking about Keanu Reeves versus Paul Walker.
Watch Running Scared and tell me Paul Walker's bland.
Yeah, and
I'll throw that out for you.
Keanu's had some good performances too, yeah.
Constantine. Not a great movie, but he has a decent performance in it.
Also looked to Pleasantville for Paul Walker, where he gets to actually play with the perfect blonde guy, basically.
I'd even go to Bill and Ted, honestly.
Yeah, Paul Walker also got to do that, and She's All That in Varsity Blues, but Pleasantville was the
start
best
of
place
it?
for it.
The best place in it.
And, you know, Keon, like, I really like Keon, I really do. And he's got some really good performances, like A Scanner Darkly and Hardball, and, you know, I'm sure there's others.
The Matrix?
Yeah, mostly in The Matrix he just has to ask questions, but, I gotta be honest, as much as I like Keanu, I will say, in Point Break, Speed.
Speed's a big one.
Point Break is probably his worst performance.
Ooh,
ever.
That's bad.
Because there's, if I remember correctly, a lot of people like to quote the line, "I am an FBI agent." He almost went Nicolas Cage on it.
It's about the same direction.
And there's the once again, much like I talked about with Shawshank, a line that is now ruined by Robot Chicken. It's they're about to do the big skydiving scene, and there's a lot of tension, and then finally Utah just looks at Swayze and says, "Well, are we gonna jerk off or are we gonna jump?" In Robot Chicken, of course, it's, the door of the plane is open and they're getting ready. And he looks at Bodhi and he says, "Are we going to jerk off or are we going to jump?" And Bodhi just kind of looks like he's considering, and then we just see the door of the plane shut.
I actually somewhat remember seeing someone show that to me.
The clip ends there.
That's great.
But anyway,
he made his decision.
And then we'll go into Bodhi and Toretto. A lot of people love to give Vin Diesel shit for being a shitty actor. But like I talked about in the Riddick review, I think Vin Diesel's got a great presence.
Yes, definitely.
And I think that's what works for him.
Correct.
Like, he doesn't have to, you know, be heavy in the drama or whatever. Just him being there, he makes the impression that his characters need to make.
He'd be a great supervillain.
Yeah.
For a comic book movie. I don't know which one, but he'd make a great supervillain.
Yeah, a lot of people might tell you that's Rig, but he can do better.
I mean, Hardy's job was amazing, but I could buy maybe him as possibly Bane.
Yeah. I never thought about that, but that's
a good one.
Oh my god, Nolan marks all over the place are just wanting to kill you now.
I'm the one that pretty much trumpeted Affleck getting the Batman role, so come at me.
And Bodhi's an interesting case because, I just talked about Vin Diesel, I didn't even talk about Toretto.
We will. Give it time.
Toretto is very interesting. Obviously, you know, we're coming up on the 7th movie now. Yeah. Everybody knows that Toretto is not, you know, a villain.
No.
But he's got that threatening way about him. But Vin Diesel can go both ways.
Yes.
You can either get Riddick or you can get the pacifier.
Ooh, that's a weird combination.
Toretto's like a combination of both.
Yeah?
Without the killing that Riddick does. Bodhi is interesting because Bodhi is more or less... They don't really go into this, and it's kind of a generalization to just kind of throw out there, but for argument's sake, Bodhi is basically a hippie.
Yeah.
That commits bank robberies. Like, he doesn't want to shoot anybody, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. Basically, he commits the robberies so he can, like, fund the things that he does. That's it. He's nobody's ever been... Like, they say, like, there's been 27 robberies, and nobody's ever been shot. And then at the end, when he does finally have to kill somebody, it, like, really rocks him.
Yeah.
But regardless, he still is hardcore when he has to be hardcore. Like, this is very not hippie of him. The particular scene at the gas station, when, the attendant is there and they have to steal the car and they have to burn the one they were in. He takes the, he throws gas onto the attendant. And then he takes the gas and starts spraying it with a lighter in front of it and basically makes a flamethrower. Now, as far as the dynamic is there's instant brotherhood basically through both. The interesting thing in Fast and the Furious is how quickly... All it takes is, like, one thing to change it.
Yeah.
But it's a big thing, because we have the big street race at the beginning, where Brian almost has Toretto, but then his car fucks up, and Toretto wins. And then when he finally pulls his, as what Will Smith would call his busted-ass vehicle past the finish line, he's just kind of laughing, and Toretto says, "What are you laughing about? You lost." And he says, "I almost had you, man." And Toretto just humiliates him and says, like, you know, there's no winning, like, whether you win by an inch or whether you win by a mile, winning is winning. And
exactly.
You never almost had me. And
you ain't first, you're last.
yeah, basically. And he just goes off, and of course, it's just a big crowd of people who are like worship the ground Toretto walks on.
Yeah.
And they're just bearing Brian into the ground. But then the cops come, and everybody takes off, and everybody abandons everybody. So Toretto basically makes a getaway and hides his car, and then comes out, much like the opening of Drive.
Yeah.
But then the cops find him and chase him, and Toretto's gang has entirely run off and abandoned him, but Brian's the one that comes back for him. So there's that instant brotherhood where he goes off on Vince and everybody at the party and says, "You guys left me there," and he's the one that, But then, of course, there's always that little banner going on because Toretto's on his way upstairs with Letty, and he stops and says, "By the way, you still owe me a car." That line that comes back at the very end.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Utah and Bodhi is it's kind of there. With Bodhi, it's there, and you don't really know it because he doesn't really let it on. Mm-hmm. Because obviously Utah is an ex-football player.
Yes.
And they're doing the big, football game on the beach. That scene everyone loves. One of many scenes this movie everybody loves. And then finally, Bodhi's got the ball and he's running and about to score, and Utah just tackles him into the water on the beach. And Bodhi's gang's about to come over and say, "Dude, what the fuck? What are you doing?" And Bodhi stops him and says, "Dude, do you know who this is?" And he knew who Utah was the whole time.
Nice.
And he informs them, and they're like, "Oh my god, I didn't even recognize you, man." And he just kind of instantly falls in with them there. And much to the chagrin of Tyler, who is Lori Petty, who's basically saying they're a bunch of, adrenaline junkies, and you don't want to fall in line with them, but because they're like really, really hardcore. And of course, Utah doesn't know what he's in for yet, and falls in with them anyway because it's his job. Much like, O'Connor. As far as the dynamic is concerned, it would be Toretto and Brian. But as far as the characters themselves and the acting, it's really... Obviously, the only person that comes off unscathed here is Swayze.
Yeah.
So, this point would have to go to Point Break.
Okay.
The next would be, trying to figure out how to say this without being sexist. This is the one I had to tack on. It's the tough female character. The strong, independent woman, if you will.
What do you want me to annotate this as?
You know what? Say strong, independent woman if you have to. We have Tyler, who is Lori Petty, and we have Letty, who is Michelle Rodriguez.
That's an interesting combination.
Because fuck Jordana Brewster. Yes, if ever there were two women known for not being womanly, it's Lori Petty and Michelle Rodriguez.
Tank Girl on line 1.
So, this was pre-Tank Girl, too.
It's Tank Girl and Girl Fight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Alright, so, well, it's interesting it's worth noting that, while it's not Letty that it happens to, the exact same confession is in both of these movies with the exact same result.
Wow.
The "I'm a cop" confession, and "Please, I would have told you sooner. Let me explain." And of course, neither one of them really react to... Well, Tyler has a different situation because before she can really, try to out him or do anything extreme, she gets kidnapped and becomes a damsel in distress. And Lori Petty and damsels in distress really don't go together.
No.
Lori Petty is usually the distress causer. Michelle Rodriguez, this is basically the role that she built the rest of her filmography around.
That's exactly true.
All the way to Avatar, Resident Evil, Girl Fight, anyhow. I think she was in Blood Rain. Yes, she was in Blood Rain. But the thing about Tyler is she actually has a human side. Like, we actually feel for her when she goes against Utah for outing himself, because what he did was he looked into her history and saw that both of her parents were killed in a car accident, I think.
Okay.
So to basically, I think he said his parents live in like Columbus or something. But he tells her that they died in a car wreck, so that or a plane crash or something. basically to get her to relate to him and fall for him, so he can do his job. Because he wasn't counting on falling for her when it happened. So it's much more understandable from her perspective why she would be so upset about none of this being true. While Letty has her moments of, the cool, tough girl thing, there's really no other layers to her, except to be the tough girl thing.
True.
Whereas Lori Petty's able to balance both these things. So, that would also go to Point Break. Alright, the next one would be the supporting characters, of course.
That's how we do it here.
Alright, we'll start with the Fast and the Furious.
Okay.
There is Jordana Brewster, who, like I said, is like, a plank of wood, basically. I can name maybe 3 movies she was on top of my head, and 2 of them have the words Fast and Furious in the title. The other's Annapolis. I'm sure there's plenty more, but they're not off the top of my head. I think she was in, was she in Debs?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And she's actually her first movie was The Faculty.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And she's in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning in 2006.
She's the survivor that doesn't survive. Yeah. Okay, so, we have, the villain, Johnny Tran, who's played by Rick Yoon. That dude is awesome. Johnny Tran has his moments, but Rick Yoon is awesome, is what I mean. There is, and he has a brother, and they're basically the main villains. Kind of like when you think, things with Toretto will be fine when you introduce these other villains. So, and he has a couple, he could be more hardcore than he is, but he's still effective enough as a villain. There's the people in Toretto's gang who are Vince, Jesse, and Leon, I think.
Yep.
Vince is the guy that basically hates Brian from the get-go, and they have that rivalry, and his name is Matt Schultz, I think. He was in,
yes.
He's in Blade 2. I knew his name and then it just went right out of my head. Jesse is the kid who, he's supposedly the smart guy, but he does really dumb shit. He's kind of like a really, really discount Jesse Pinkman, which is really fun. Maybe I'm just subconscious saying that because his name's Jesse. I don't know. But, without the meth, of course. He's supposedly the smart guy, but he bets his, car on a race with Johnny Tran, knowing that Johnny Tran's got like $100,000 worth of shit inside his car, and he loses and basically runs off like a coward and comes back at the end just in time to fucking die.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Leon does nothing. Leon is there because they needed another guy in their group. They needed more people to rob the trucks like they do.
Right on.
Then there's Ted Levine. Finally, Paul Walker comes face to face with Rusty Nail.
Very nice.
It's all about killer vehicles, too.
Of course.
He's got a couple of scenes. Ted Levine's always interesting. Did I miss anybody important?
Yeah, you forgot.
Jarrell.
Yeah, you mentioned Jarrell.
Jarrell's only got one scene. He's basically some racer at the beginning, and he's got that comedic moment where the girl says that she'll bring another girl to bed if he wins, and I think her name is Monica. So he's like in third place as Brian is behind him, and suddenly Brian takes off, and as he watches Brian take off by him, he just screams, "Monica!"
I remember that. A couple like various racers and
nobody too important.
Johnny Tran's cousin Lance Wynn.
Oh, I thought it was his brother.
It's his cousin, according to this.
He's basically his little henchman. He doesn't do much except point a gun and say, "Do this or that."
And the cameo by Rob Cohen as the taxi driver.
That was a pizza guy.
Taxi driver.
Oh. That might be off. I'm pretty sure he's a pizza guy.
He drops off Dom and Brian at Dom's house.
Oh, alright. Somebody else was the pizza guy then.
No. Okay.
The supporting characters in Point Break. Let's see. We already... Busey and John C. McGinley, are great. Like, that's the thing, is Gary Busey acts like a psychopath and everything.
Yes.
People tend to forget that he's a really great actor.
We don't forget that he was an Oscar nominee.
Yeah, he's great in this. John C. McGinley does he's got the pissed off superior thing down completely.
He's an alpha beta after all.
There's the people in the gang. James LeGros is the only one I really remember. I think he was Roach.
Mm-hmm.
And the others are just kind of...
Nathaniel and Gromit.
Yeah. Roach is kind of the loose cannon. He's the one in the Nixon mask. And then there's the... I think they're called the Nazi surfers. The ones led by Anthony Kiedis. Who they initially think... There's two... He's investigating the beach because he thinks... Because Busey thinks that the bank robbers are surfers, and of course they are. But the trouble is there's this gang of 4 surfers that they think it is, but it's actually Swayze's gang. So they're going after this gang first. And then they're mostly killed and or arrested in a raid, and that's when they narrow it down. But that's pretty much what they're there for, but they're wild-ass characters.
To say the least, they're Nazi surfers. That just tells you all you need to know right then and there.
Like, I think it's Swayze. Yeah, it's Swayze talking to him about real surfers are there because they love to surf and they love, being in the waves and just being in the moment. Mm-hmm. The Nazi surfers are more territorial. Like, if they see you around the beach, they're gonna fucking kill you, and that's what they do. So I think that about covers it. So I'd say Fast and Furious is looking grim, but I really like it. This goes also to Point Break. This is where things start to come into question. The fourth one is which movie has the better action.
I think I know where this is headed. Go ahead.
Fast and the Furious has a couple of things. It's got these really frenetic, adrenaline-inducing racing scenes. Like, they were really, they're really heavily criticized in the second movie. Because the second movie is a piece of shit. Oscar nominee John Singleton did Too Fast, Too Furious, and it sucked, and it looked CG, and everything looked off. But in this, they did a really good job. Rob Cohen's not got the best resume. His last movie was Alex Cross. But he has which had John C. McGinley in it as a superior figure. But it's also got these awesome high scenes with robbing the trucks while they're moving. Which is this awesome, that was like the action movie standard in the early 2000s, was the scenes in this movie. Like, how many, I don't know, between commercials and trailers and the movie being on movie channels and people I know watching these movies over and over again, the action scenes in The Fast and Furious were, iconic in the 2000s.
Absolutely.
Having said that, I want to look at this in Point Break. Okay. We have the surfing scenes. Ironically enough, Busey hires Utah to go undercover as the surfer because he doesn't surf. But there's a really good movie from 1978 called Big Wednesday, where Gary Busey plays a very accomplished surfer.
Nice.
And the surfing scenes in that movie are great, and the greatness of those, it sounds kind of boring when you say a surfing movie.
No.
But when you watch a movie like Big Wednesday is like the quintessential surfing movie. Surfing movies can be very intense and very,
The Endless Summer.
Yeah. It's just, which is referenced in Point Break, by the way.
Of course it is.
By Busey. And, surfing scenes can be awesome. And I still to this day have no idea how the fuck they're filmed. But, I assume a lot goes into it, and there's, there's some movie magic, there's some real, so, I think I read some of this about it on Big Wednesday, but if surfing's not enough, you have, I guess we'll throw in the football scene everybody loves, because with all the fucking shit in that scene, that could pretty much count as an action scene. And plus, you're clamming together everything that guys love, back when, what did Spike used to say they were called?
Spike?
That channel, it was
movies for guys who like movies? That's actually a TBS line, actually. Back in the day.
Spike had their own tagline, but it was something similar to that. I remember the movies, you guys like movies thing.
Yeah.
A lot of Van Damme movies played there.
WCW style. Waiting for Superstar. Ready for wrestling to start.
You have shootouts. You have a big-ass car chase. You have a big-ass foot chase. Right after the car chase. This is all covered by Nick Frost and Hot Fuzz, by the way.
Yes. I think that's where you got the idea to try to bring Point Break into the verses.
Yeah, there are heists. There are multiple heists. And to top it all off, there is not one, but 2 fucking skydiving scenes. And by the way, apparently, I don't know about Keanu or the other guys, but I know for a fact, when we see Swayze skydiving, that shit's real. Because he actually did that. He was like, he was like, accomplished in it before they even made the movie. Like these are... Huh?
I got something for you. Give me a second. Go ahead.
And it's weird to think, this movie's only 2 hours. It doesn't even break the 2-hour mark. I think it's like 2 hours exactly.
Okay.
And they managed to fit in pretty much every single possible thing you can put in an action movie in this movie at an equal balance. Which is the reason this movie has this notorious following in action movie land.
Want to talk about this, about the remake?
I heard something like that.
No, it's funny because it plays into the verses. The remake was announced in 2011, and Warner Brothers, Will's favorite company, is developing it with Alcon. Now, it's funny because the guy who wrote the 2012 Total Recall last year, this is obviously Kurt Wimmer, he
also wrote Law Abiding Citizen.
Yeah, exactly. The cinematographer of The Fast and the Furious is going to be the director.
Harrison Core, yeah. The guy that's the director of Invincible.
I thought that was a really nice little put together since we're doing the verses like that.
That's weird.
Yeah, I just saw that like 2 seconds ago, so continue.
There's just that... Okay, I gotta be honest. Point Break gets the point for one reason. One reason.
Okay.
There's a particular moment where it's when Swayze abandons the car at the gas station after he's made the flamethrower.
Mm.
He just starts... Utah catches him, so he just starts to run. And Utah chases him. And there's this big foot chase. Now, this foot chase is even more intense than the fucking car chase right before it was.
Of course it is.
And he's like, you know, they're running through backyards, they're running through houses, they're running through over fences, they're jumping fences, they're going down the... This is the scene that leads to this big scene in Hot Fuzz where he fires his gun up in the air and goes, ah.
Nice.
They go through this backyard, and Swayze is there waiting for Utah. When Utah comes around the corner, Bodhi has picked up a dog, a full-size dog, and throws it at Utah to slow him down.
That's great.
For the love of God.
I'm sure PETA and the ASPCA didn't like it at the time, but...
oh yeah, and just to make matters worse, to get it out of its way, Utah basically... He doesn't quite punt it, but he kicks it out of the way.
Steve grabs that sucker.
Alright. Finally, to be in the Fast and Furious' favor, let's talk about the last category, which is... Which movie has the better climax?
Okay.
The climax in Point Break is a very famous scene as well. Bodhi basically has Tyler with this guy. Bodhi's not necessarily ordering that Tyler be killed, but the guy is gonna kill her, no matter what Bodhi says. Unless, Utah can get him out of here and get him safely, and then he'll call the guy off. So, they're on a plane, and there's 2 parachutes, and there's 3 guys. And Roach is basically on the verge of death after having been shot at the robbery. So Bodhi puts a parachute on him and puts a parachute on himself and jumps out of the plane and leaves Utah on the plane without a parachute. But Utah has to know where Tyler is so he can save her.
Mm-hmm.
So Utah just says, fuck it, and jumps out of the plane without a parachute and manages to skillfully land himself on Bodhi's back. And basically gets underneath Bodhi and grabs a hold of the cord. Or he doesn't grab the hold of the cord yet, but they're falling, and he's basically in midair screaming at Bodhi to tell him where Tyler is. And Bodhi is saying, I'm not going to pull the cord, you pull the cord. And it basically becomes a game of chicken. They're getting closer and closer to the ground, and Bodhi is saying, I'm not pulling the cord, you're going to have to pull the cord. And they just barely do it. I don't know how they survive, because the parachute was open for like half a second when they hit the ground.
Wow.
Having said that, that is intense. But the ending scene of The Fast and the Furious is probably one of the most... I've only seen The Fast and Furious all the way through like maybe 4 times. But I have seen the ending so many goddamn times I cannot even remember. I can't put a number on it. We have... Johnny Train has been killed. So it's just Brian and Toretto left.
Yes.
And they're in their cars. Toretto's in the, not a car guy, it's the Charger, I think.
Hold on.
So, they're there. And for really, it's really not worth noting, because it takes away from the awesomeness. But while we're here, we might as well say it. This scene pretty much has no purpose, except to be awesome.
Yeah, no lie.
Okay, so we have Toretto and Brian, and Toretto says, I used to, drag race on this street, and the train track is a quarter of a mile away.
It's a great impersonation, sir. Mark Vincent fans out there, we are apologizing right now.
And that's he says, he basically says he can get there before the train comes by.
Right on. Oh, I remember the scene so well.
Yes. Everybody watched this scene over and over and fucking over again in 2001.
Exactly.
Like, when we, I think we went to this place in Florida that was, selling, big speakers and entertainment systems and stuff like that. And, I shit you not, to show off the sound in the picture, it was this scene on a loop.
That's awesome.
So, they're doing this. And basically, yeah, a lot of critics have a good point in saying there's really no point to the racing in the Fast and the Furious, because all that matters is which one pushes their button at the right time more. It has nothing to do with the actual racing.
Exactly. It's who hits the nitrous boost quicker.
So, Toretto's car actually starts to fuck up.
Yeah.
On their way there.
To say the least.
And the train is coming. But they managed to just miss the train. That really famous shot of... It's just a very famous shot of them just missing the track as the train goes by and it's behind them. And then everything's cool and everything's safe. And then Toretto doesn't see the big-ass semi-truck coming from the other way. And that's what takes him out. And that's pretty much where the movie ends. He just lets him go. Just like, it's a little different. A lot of people compare the endings. It's a little different because he lets Toretto go and flee the cops. And the movie just fucking ends. Point Break's a little different because he lets Bodhi go, but Bodhi's basically committing suicide. Because he goes out into the storm to serve, and we know he's not coming back. Because I believe both Bodhi and Toretto have this thing about never going back to prison. They're like Macaulay at the end of Heat. Despite the fact that Point Break predates Heat. Not the other movie, LA Takedown, but, whatever. But yes, I will give The Fast and Furious the point for having the best climax, because as much as skydiving without a parachute is fucking awesome and insane, just... when you look at action movie icon scenes, the ending of The Fast and the Furious is clearly in there.
Yes.
And it's such a simple scene, too. It's just two dudes racing down the street for no fucking reason.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Like, had the truck not come and wiped Toretto out, where was that scene gonna go?
They've been driving for a long time.
So, that's the end of that. So, yeah, clearly Point Break's the more superior movie, but there's no reason to say The Fast and the Furious is some shitty movie that spawned some horrible sequels. Really, none of the sequels are horrible except for the second one.
Too fast.
Tokyo Drift is really underrated.
I like it, especially when you watch it in the right chronological order.
And Fast and Furious got mixed reaction, but Fast 5 pretty much got everybody back into loving these.
Yeah.
Like, Fast 5 got the acclaim this one did when it first came out. 10 years later.
Now we're leading towards Fast 7, so...
And it's 12 years... When Fast 7 comes out, this will be 13 years old.
Good God.
And nobody's fucking aged, by the way.
No, they haven't. Not at all.
So yeah, that's... Yeah, Point Break's undeniable here, but still, you know, you gotta give Fast and Furious credit. It's really got, you know... It really accomplishes what it set out to.
I'll give it up to, before we get going, the scene... the Point Break ending scene, it was actually busted on the Mythbusters. This is not possible for this to actually happen in real life.
Yeah.
So, but it's still an amazing scene. And the ending of Fast and Furious is just unbelievable.
So yeah, I guess if you want to just, you know, put Point Break continuously on a pedestal, I just talked about Rob Cohen's last name being Alex Cross. Of course, Point Break was Catherine Bigelow.
Yes.
Who was the first woman to win an Oscar for Best Director for The Hurt Locker. And
very true.
it's since been getting a shitload of acclaim for Zero Dark 30 and probably anything else she does from now on. She also did great movies like Blue Steel and Near Dark, of course.
Which we may or may not be discussing in the near future. We'll throw that little quip out to you guys.
So that's it for this one.
Next week. Got any ideas?
That'll be the first one in October, won't it?
Yes, it will. And it's also going to be the time where we're going to be shooting our second Oscar prediction video. So
yeah, it'll be one of the ones we have planned for October, yeah.
So October, I'm going to throw this out there. October is going to be focusing on the horror film genre. Because obviously it's October, so why not?
Horror might be used loosely on some of these, but still, you know, more or less.
Suspense movies. Intense suspense movies.
We'll say something like that, yeah.
We'll go with that. So, any parting words for the month of September?
Good riddance.